Hey guys, Terminator here. I'm back and 2024 has arrived. I had COVID most of December, which was pretty crappy. I didn't make the videos that I wanted to make, including a bit of a response video to the statement CA released, all the craziness that was happening around the online community, the forums, the Reddit, etc. But the new year is here and I'm finally back in the swing of things. So today, I want to do a bit of a recap of 2023, all the ups and downs that Creative Assembly, Total War, and the community went through, kind of keeping in mind the history of the franchise, obviously, and trying my best to keep any biases I have at bay to shine a light on 2024 and the next 12 months ahead of us. What's in store for Pharaoh? What's going to happen to Warhammer 3? Is there a new game on the horizon and what it could be? And generally, how we might see CA behave as a company with its promises of change in their December statement. Starting with the big recap, 2023 began with this slightly elusive image shared on the Total War Twitter X account. We had known for a long while by then that Hyenas was in development and that it probably wouldn't be a success, and lo and behold it wasn't. A video statement from the Warhammer 3 DLC director Rich Aldridge promised 3 new DLC-sized content launches for the game, which turned out to be just 2 DLCs with bigger asking prices, and specifically with Shadows of Change much less content, and we were teased with 2 unannounced projects, one of which I think we all kind of assumed was a new Total War title, and with Warhammer 3 support still ongoing, probably a historical one. As the months passed by, we got that Chaos Dwarves DLC, we had Legend of Total War lead a community effort to make Immortal Empires free for all players, which was pretty cool. We then saw the colossal collapse of Hyenas, costing CA and SEGA over £100 million, which brought into context a lot of the questionable management decisions with regards to communication, community management, DLC development, etc., the price increases to the DLCs, the lack of content and Shadows of Change, all of which led to the major SEGA decision to restructure Creative Assembly. In the meantime, Total War Pharaoh was announced. For me, at first, it looked like an interesting historical entry to the series. I'm a big fan of the Bronze Age world, personally. There are ample opportunities for engaging mechanics, exploring vibrant cultures, and playing out major conflicts. But as time would soon tell with things like the battle gameplay videos, which showed almost completely uninteresting gameplay, and the campaign issues like character-focused mechanics and the small scale of campaign map, I think many would agree you could tell Pharaoh wouldn't be all that successful either. Essentially, 2023 was a year of bad to worse pretty quickly and pretty much in every way. Historical players got more and more pissed off with games like Napoleon, Shogun 2, or Rome 2 having their multiplayer chat completely removed. Warhammer 3 players got even angrier in 2023 than in 2022 when the game first launched with the questionable DLC design issues and the price increases, etc. Hyenas being scrapped put Sega's faith in CA out the window, and Pharaoh launched in October to a dismal peak of 5,000 players, the worst in the history of the franchise. CA was quiet as ever, hoping for the fallout to pass, but it never did. The community outrage was vocal, and the future of Total War was never more uncertain. Enter December 2023 and the message from the Total War leadership team. You guys have been asking for what I think, so here it is. To me, the statement was made tactically ahead of the Christmas and New Year, so people are in a bit more of a positive mood generally, to make some vague 2024 promises veiled in front of some hefty negative news. Starting with Warhammer 3, CA promised to deliver a big content expansion to Shadows of Change to get the added value to meet that asking price, and they also say they plan on continuing monthly hotfixes and patches to remedy the most pressing bug issues. But what they don't mention are some of the very major broken or unbalanced issues Warhammer 3, the foundation of the game, still suffers from. Whether it's the siege battles and how pretty much everybody still avoids them, the broken lords and mechanics that, basically mean that certain factions aren't very playable, and with Thrones of Decay, the next DLC pushed back to April at least, which is roughly a 6-month delay compared to when they initially wanted to launch it, there won't be any sort of a roadmap for Warhammer 3 for what to expect in the future of the game. This is in stark contrast to statements made in the launch of the game in early 2022 and 2023, where a roadmap was a big focus of communication. And it tells me, anyway, that CA are still going through a ton of uncertainty around the game, a ton of internal damage control, and any sort of content roadmap they had originally planned beyond Thrones of Decay is very much still up in the air. The elephant in the room here, though, is Total War Pharaoh. Yes, the price was dropped from $60 to $40, which is great. Like, that is definitely a step in the right direction. And yes, the first planned DLC for the game will be arriving for free for all owners. Whoopee! But all of this tells me support for the game has been totally gutted. You know, I see a lot of people still excited about the future of the game, hopeful for future content, and that's good for you. You know, if you still feel that way, you're very brave, because personally, I don't think there's anything left. I think that CA are consolidating all the development effort they've made to Pharaoh so far, and they've got a limit, a stop on everything beyond that they had planned that they're not going to be doing anymore. And this is simply a goodwill gesture that they're doing to wrap it up and close it off. They removed the Deluxe and Dynasty editions of the game and refunded players who bought them because they won't commit to making 3 additional promised DLCs. Like I predicted, Pharaoh released to such low numbers that all CA is willing to commit to is a free DLC to recoup some of those burning bridges from 2023, trying to recoup that community goodwill. And on top of that, a proper carrot dangling, if I've ever seen one, with the mention of the free campaign map expansion. Now, they might very well do that. I can see them expanding the map into Western Anatolia because, let's face it, there wouldn't be that much developmental effort to reskin factions from Total War Saga Troy, slap on some new mechanics, and call them Phrygians. There are some very easy wins for CA by expanding the map west, and that's what I think they'll do if they ever add a map expansion. But, and I cannot stress this enough, Pharaoh will never get a map expansion into Mesopotamia. That's just wishful thinking and is completely unrealistic. The amount of effort to do that would be equivalent to making a new Pharaoh-scaled game and DLC, like whatever you want to call it, or Troy for that matter. And for a game that, again, doesn't have much of a player base and has just had all but one of its future DLCs scrapped, is just not worth that kind of effort and investment. I would love for it to happen. As I said, the Bronze Age period is ripe for the clashing of major cultures with an existential threat. In my opinion, Pharaoh doesn't do any of that enough, and while the prospect of playing the Sea Peoples in a free DLC is nice, and the lower price point is nice, it's clearly not convinced anyone to buy the game, and at this point, I can't see why CA would justify any more investment into the game and its future. So seriously, in terms of future promises, I would take this entire section of the message with a massive grain of salt. Creative Assembly makes promises all the time, but until they genuinely walk the walk, and we'll see with the Shadows of Change content update and the free DLC for Pharaoh in the coming months, I suggest we just sit back and watch what happens. So with all of this in mind, what's in store for 2024? Here are my predictions. Shadows of Change gets the big expansion update in February. It's got a ton of good changes that most players are generally happy with, but it's certainly not without issues. Overall, it's not successful enough for people to simply forgive CA for the state of the game and the way they handled the DLC to begin with, but it's a good step forward. Total War Pharaoh gets its free DLC with the playable Sea Peoples and a ton of mechanics overhauls, bug fixes, and balancing updates, but it generally falls flat as most people have already made up their minds about the game. The new free factions aren't enough to expand the player base, and while the game continues to get a major patch every couple of months until the end of summer 2024, no more support is planned and any future expansion is totally scrapped. With Thrones of Decay launching in April, Warhammer 3 players receive their first major piece of content that is actually worth the price, with a ton of content that most players are really happy with. The focus on older factions like the Empire and the Dwarves brings up to speed some fan favorites and is a huge boost to sales and player counts. All of this will justify future support for the game through 2024 and likely with 3 more DLCs in a roadmap into 2025 as well, with a mix of updates into new factions and bringing older factions up to speed as well. And then, of course, there's the unannounced new Total War game. I mean, I personally don't think it'll be released this year. I think that CA will treat 2024 like a community building, let's emulate Larian games and get as many brownie points as we can kind of year. And if all goes as planned and the community sentiment swings more towards the positive by, let's say, October, I think that's when CA will announce a new title to be released in spring 2025. What that game will be, of course, is anyone's guess, really. If Thrones of Decay is the last DLC for Warhammer 3, it'll leave plenty of older factions in the dust, plenty of issues still in the base game, and unless there's some major fixes this year, it'll probably leave the game in less than a desirable state. But it would open up CA to develop a Warhammer 40k Total War, which, if the rumors are true, would fit in nicely into 2025. On the other hand, we've been told many times that Warhammer 3 still has lots of content planned, that Warhammer 3 will be the last in the series of Warhammer games. So if Thrones is successful enough, I think CA will continue content support with 3 more DLCs into 2025, which would open up the possibility for a new major historical Total War. What that could be is anyone's guess, of course. We know that the majority of the community would like to see a new medieval or empire, but CA doesn't exactly have a reliable track record of delivering what people really want. There have been rumors, of course, as well that Three Kingdoms 2 was one of those cancelled unannounced games, so I don't think that's in the realm of possibilities here. But what I can see happening is a drastic change from what we've seen before. I think what this year could be at least, is a bit of a reset. Whether this new game comes with a new Total War engine or not, whether it's set in Roman times or Victorian times, honestly, it could be anything. But my gut feeling tells me just as Empire was very different to Medieval 2, or that Warhammer or Three Kingdoms was very different to anything we'd seen before then, I can really see CA developing a game that looks different, feels different, and plays differently as well. I hope they take it to a more realistic and brutal direction of warfare rather than the very squishy and depthless games we've had of late, and I think the majority of the Total War community wants to see the formula shake up a bit as well. So hopefully, with everything that's happened in 2023, that's the positive direction in which the series is headed. Of course, there's the very real possibility that all the damage control efforts the community building in 2024 are fruitless, that Warhammer 3 stops getting support, and CA teases a Warhammer 40k Total War at the end of the year if the rumors are true, but personally anyway, I'm really hoping that won't be the case. Whatever happens though, the last 12 months have certainly not been easy for anyone. The hardworking employees at CA first and foremost who've been made redundant, I'm still very sorry for that. The Total War community who've been given lackluster content with lazy communication, even the content creators. I mean, it's not easy or nice talking negatively about a franchise you grew up with, so it's just not been a good time for anyone. I'm a really positive guy inherently, so I hope for the best and prepare for the worst. Hopefully things look up in 2024 with some good content, with some good design and developmental and managerial decisions, and by the end of the year, a new game is on the horizon that we can all look forward to, because at the end of the day, that's all we want. We just want Total War to start being good. And that's it for today, guys. I've been radio silent for over a month now, but I'm back and I've got a great calendar of content ahead for the next couple of months. So if you enjoyed today's video, then hit that subscribe button to follow along and get notified of my new videos. The channel got to 40,000 subscribers in 2023, which is amazing. This year, we're aiming for 100,000 subscribers, and for that, I need your help. So really, seriously, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. If you did, give it a like and drop any thoughts or questions in the comment section below. And I'd love to hear what you think about everything I've discussed here today, what you think about the state of Total War, how 2023 shaped up to be, and your predictions for 2024. Subscribe for more strategy and Total War content just like this. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.